Around the latest round of executive orders signed by President Donald Trump have led to growing misinformation issues. One action that has many talking is the potential impacts to the Equal Employment Opportunity Act. CBS News Detroit's Elaine Rojas Castillo is on your block in Midtown with a breakdown of the confusion and what you need to know.
This executive order does not have the power to override laws that we already have on the books that are passed by our legislature.
On Tuesday, President Donald Trump signed a series of executive orders eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, government programs, with a memo going out to federal agencies placing all DEI office staffers on paid leave immediately.
Did away and says we do not want diversity to be a hiring or job criteria for any federal position.
Civil rights attorney John Marco says that move may seem daunting, but is fairly limited in the scope of its reach.
Oh, if you're not in the federal government, it's going to do nothing for you. It's not going to affect you whatsoever. You know, you work for Ford or, you work for the corner store, the corner bar, whatever. You still have the same protections you had a month ago.
The real F around and find out moment is here. A lot of people are looking at the Black community thinking that we are the recipients and benefactors of DEI programs and affirmative action programs. And I know affirmative action is no longer, but whenever they hear the term DEI or they hear the term affirmative action, they look to the Black community thinking that we are the benefactor. Now, here's some information for you. The number one recipient of DEI are white women. That is according to the U.S. Department of Labor. And others fall under that group, under the minority group, the ethnic minority. Number one recipient under that group are Latino and Hispanic Americans. Number two are Asian Americans. Number three are Native Americans. Number four, individuals with disability. Number five, veterans. Okay? And number six, the LGBTQ plus community. And guess who comes last at receiving DEI benefits? Guess who comes last? That's right. Black Americans. Black people. Let me also say, you can do a Google search and you will see the primary benefactors of DEI programs are not only white women, but white men, white male CEOs. Those are the ones who have benefited the most from DEI initiative programs.
To the left, to the left. To the left, to the left. To the left, to the left.
I am in business in multiple ways, with Target, with Walmart, and Amazon, right? I sell Donna's Recipe, my hair care products, right, are on Amazon. They're also in Target. And of course, I have a huge partnership with Target. I sell my seasonings at Walmart. I do business all over, just like many other people. And what I can tell you is, if we all decide to boycott and be like, no, we're not spending no money at these organizations. Listen, I get it. And if that's how you feel, honey, I 1000% get it. But so many of us will be affected, and our sales will drop. Our business will be hurt. And if any of you know business, it doesn't just happen overnight where you can just go take all your stuff and pull it off the shelves. there's a process, and then you gotta, like, where you gonna put it? You gotta have a place to store it. That's money, right? You gotta have another place to sell it, which is almost impossible sometimes. And even if you sell online, it's a process when it comes to business. And everyone does not have the funds or the means or the availability, the space to house their own products, right?
Welcome back to Breakdown Friday. Joseph Ward, Professor Carl Tone Jones, Patrick Irvin. And we're here to give our 2 cents on this DEI thing. Because Trump and his executive orders said, DEI, take your ass home. We're not doing this no more. We don't want people to get hired or get positions based off their diversity. We want people to get positions based off of their merits. Of course, we're going to put them quotes up, because that's a part of it, but we're not going to say that's the whole of it. But it was a lot that was said in these clips before this, and we're here to not just give our 2 cents on what's going on DEI, but also, of course, how does it affect Black America? How does it affect us? What are the things that we should have done? What are the things that we can do? How can we move forward with this thing? What are the total fallouts that will come from the ending of DEI? As you can see, the last clip has Tabitha Brown giving her 2 cents on her involvement with the end of DEI and Target, because she's heavily involved with Target, I think Walmart, I believe Amazon, companies that have said that they're ending DEI. But the question is, are they going to end those initiatives for those Black brands? I don't know yet. Of course, more information has to come out. But nevertheless, we're going to dive deep into this because, of course, it has led to a lot of Black people saying we're going to boycott this and boycott that and boycott all the institutions or the corporations that have ended DEI. You know how we feel about the boycotts. It's just another screaming match, another exercise, another 2-week wave that's going to come and go. We've been looking at these 2-week waves, and the wave have gotten shorter than 2 weeks as time has progressed. So we getting right up into this thing because it's interesting at the same time, but I think this is also one of those moments where it will be good for us to work together. It would be good if we would have already been working together, because it really wouldn't be any sweat off our back. But also, this really ain't our fight like that. But we are affected by it because of our dependency on white supremacists. So we're going to get all up into it. Pat, man. DEI, Devin, Eric, and Irvin, man. Man, so before we get into the outrage of Black people, let's just talk about, DEI overall, the implementation of DEI, who benefits from DEI, and the ending of DEI. How would that actually, like, what is the end? Like, just talk about just DEI overall before we dive into how we really are impacted by it. So like the structure of DEI, who is DEI benefiting? Like, why is DEI there in the first place? Like, what, let's get into it, man.
Well, the DEI is actually a framework that's meant to create equality in the workplace and in organizations across the spectrum. And so it's a framework that comes with a bunch of structures and programs and processes in place that's supposed to essentially eliminate the only, right? And so when we talk about the only, we're talking about, anybody that's being the only woman in the workplace, or the only Black person in the workplace, or the only whatever. So, there's studies that show that if you're one of the onlys in a workplace, you experience more microaggressions, you experience more workplace stress. You also experience a whole lot of other things that you tend not to experience when you're not an only. And so DEI at its core, just simplifying it immensely, is intended to combat the only. It has been on the decline for the better part of a decade now in terms of what it's actually been using. I'm talking about in terms of its actual acceptance in the workplace, but it's been real quiet. It's been slow trickles, slow falling back. over the last maybe 5 years or so is really taking a hit. A lot of the studies and the reports and the numbers that people are quoting as coming from the Department of Labor, I haven't been able to find those things.
Right.
We did a little search before we started. But I do know a lot of those numbers. I saw it as I was going through my histories. I saw a lot of those numbers framed in the Harvard Business Review. And so I think maybe that's where they're pulling it from. And somewhere along the lines, it got misattributed to the Department of Labor. And so we just running with that. But I have seen a number of those things in the Harvard Business Review. So the primary beneficiaries of it, again, according to the Harvard Business Review and a number of other places.
The McKinsey report as well.
The McKinley report, and then there's also the colloquial report, which I have seen people talking about, which is why I ended up reading it. That report isn't giving objective numbers based on DEI, it's giving perception. So everybody believes that white women are benefiting from DEI. And so that's what that report says. It says that everybody believes that white women are benefiting from DEI. But according to the Harvard report and data from other places, white women hold like 80% of the C-suite jobs that are held by women.
Right. I saw that as well.
And and white women pretty much are dominating those high profile, high status career fields. So when we're talking about DEI, we have to acknowledge we're talking about two different structures as well, though, because everybody's mad at Target and they're mad at Walmart and they're mad at these corporations and they're attributing it to the executive order that Donald Trump signed. Those are two different things. Donald Trump's executive order did not make it so that Target had to eliminate their DEI program.
That's what the white guy was saying in that first clip.
Yes, Donald Trump's executive order only applies to the federal government. It doesn't even apply to your state government. It applies to the federal government only. And so in that, even then, when we're having conversations about DEI and who are the beneficiaries of it, we got to begin to talk about, okay, who are we talking about? Because Black women are overrepresented in federal government work.
Right.
Black women are overrepresented in government work, period. I'm not saying that Black women are the primary beneficiaries of DEI, but I'm saying if we're talking about DEI as a whole, that's a conversation. If we're talking about DEI in terms of what Trump just did, that's a separate conversation.
Right.
And then if we're talking about DEI in terms of just private corporate America and nonprofit organizations, again, that is, again, a separate conversation. And so we're trying to have three different conversations using one data set that nobody can really pinpoint the source of. And everybody's mad at somebody. We're mad at four different things from four different areas. And we just lumping them all in together to be mad.
It's all Trump fault.
Right.
Well, because it's like they're more so reacting to a climate shift rather than the actual
that's exactly what they're reacting to.
The actual logistics of what happened and what the order says and who the order actually affects.
Yes, that is exactly what they're reacting to. I am one of those people that also believes, based off what I've seen, based off what I know, based off what I've interpreted from various reports, like the Harvard report and other reports, white women are the primary beneficiaries of DEI. But white women are also the primary beneficiaries of white supremacy.
Right. Well, but my question though is why, if white men have the power to give out those positions and to disseminate the DEI positions, right? Why wouldn't they give it to their women?
Well, and this is where we play the game, right? Who should you be mad at? The monster or the person that controls the monster? And then the scenario we face with in America, this is where white women need their comeuppance. White men are the monsters. White women have always been in control of the monster. That's why white women's tears are the most dangerous thing to any group of people on the planet. If a white woman starts crying, a white man will arm himself, and anything not white will begin dying in very short order. And they know how to use that soft power. And so, of course, and now with them positioning themselves as minorities, people that need additional protection, now not only do they get the benefit from white supremacy, but they also get the benefit from all of the actions taken to provide support for other people that are abused or oppressed by white supremacy. And so, and in this situation, what we see is another situation where white women have found a way to put a battery in everybody's back.
Yeah.
To go to war for them.
Right.
While they sit back and wag their finger.
Right. And say, we told you so. These cis white men this and cis white men that and cis white men. Why those same men you waving your finger at giving you the positions?
Right. And you're giving them children and legacy and everything else. Let's not mince words with it. I think the biggest problem we have here, like you said, it's the narrative. And we talked the other day. I love, look, I'm gonna use that analogy now forever. Like, narratives are weapons, and the people are the bullets. And this is another, like, this whole DEI thing is a weapon that they're using. And now instead of black men being the bullets, they didn't put back, like, black women are being loaded up.
Right.
Let's fire them off.
But it go back to, you know, my question again, like, why wouldn't white men make white women the main benefactors of DEI or affirmative action or any other those social programs that go to minorities? Because remember, who is a minority, right? Remember, everybody who is not a straight white male is considered a minority.
Yep.
And so if we look at the minority pie, black people bake the minority pie, but get the crumbs from the pie because everybody else eat the bigger slices. Equity. PC, man, jump on up in here. What's your take on this whole DEI thing, man?
Well, first of all, I'm not saying a word until everybody watching clicks the like
yeah, there
button,
you go. There you go.
shares this powerful video and this message, and subscribes to the channel. So I'll wait.
Y'all better hit that button. Y'all better hit that like button. If I know something, y'all better hit that button. Like this, comment, subscribe. I be forgetting, man. I be jumping right in. I got to do better. I'm gonna do better.
That's all right, brother. We here. We got your back. So, second of all, to that lady. No, I'm just kidding.
You know who you is. Behind that letter.
People talk slick in the comments. It's hilarious. But anyway, but Pat, you and Pat covered most of it. What the part that I get is people who are willing to be weaponized. And we find too many black folk that are willing to be weaponized because they feel like it's a sense of they feel a sense of relevance to it. And I think that's one of my biggest issues, especially all the people who want to sort of wag their finger at all of those people, all you guys who didn't vote or you voted for Trump, and I hope y'all happy. You know,
this is what they voted for, fool.
I mean, but it's Agenda 2025, and I'm like, no, you see, this is why I say most of these cats don't understand politics. No matter who was president, we was going to have to cross this fork in the road. And this fork of the road has a lot to do with the current failing economy of America on a global stage. America is spending trillions. I saw a shout out to BGS. I'm always giving him a shout out because I learned a lot from his channel. But he was showing a video of a member of Congress who was doing a presentation and was talking about how America borrows. This is debt against its own, against its own economy. $70,000 a second. There's no way you can't make enough product in which we don't make. You can't tax enough labor for which we don't have, because We have a generation that didn't have a lot of children, so there's no young people to utilize their tax dollars to build up the economy, and has a fallback on the economy that already has so much wasteful spending as it is. So they have to make cuts. And a lot of the stuff that comes with it are these additional government programs. You know, it's funny how people talk about, we don't want to be in socialism and communism, not recognizing that government control programs is
they're taking you away
socialism.
from, yes,
But
taking you away from
people don't understand politics. They don't even have the basics of what it is. We live in a capitalist society. No, it isn't. This country is like half and half.
Bruh, I saw a young white girl college student try, like, she had the gall to debate a person who spent 18 years of their life in the communist country. She had the gall to debate this man on why communism was a better system than what we currently have right now. And he's looking at her like, baby, I come from that. Why do you think I'm here?
But so even that example, it just speaks to the fact of the entitlement of believing that you're right just because you might have read a book or two, or you might have seen a video. And so now that you can debate people who have lived this experience, I deal with this when I talk about the historiography and understanding how to apply history to modern times. And I deal with it with people who've read a magazine or read an article or watched a video or something of that nature. They watch CNN and MSNBC, and now they're experts on what's going on, not having a clue in terms of how this whole thing is a hodgepodge that works together. And we're currently dealing with that right now. So the whole notion behind, and if Black folk are upset about it, I blame Black folk for being in this position.
Right.
Because we have had chances to branch off and not just and utilize these positions that have been afforded to us through these social programs to create an economy of our own. But we much rather, keep up with the Joneses. We'd much rather be seen driving an expensive car that we can barely afford. We much rather be recognized and notarized by our titles, the letters behind our names in terms of the degrees and certificates and so forth, rather than come together and take our crumbs and create our own pie. Like, so at the end of the day, for all the people who are talking about the outrage, right? And it's fake outrage, let's be clear. The Super Bowl's in a few days. The halftime show will, move us on to the next conversation. You know what I'm saying? Everybody be talking about Kendrick Lamar. Nobody be talking about this here.
Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts, Black quarterbacks.
Right. But what I'm talking about, the halftime show is because people who are not interested in
the
halftime show.
You're right, but all the narratives, all that, yes, distraction. Yes.
Yeah, we got the Grammys coming up, and come on. Oscars so white. We got all that stuff coming up. So, when we talk about what's happening, and Kevin Samuel said the winner's here. But instead of people really seeing it for what it was, they got upset because, he hates Black women. No, he's talking about the fact that there was going to be a global shift in the time when all of the handouts, because we're talking about people who benefit the most from this are women in the workplace, women being given executive and middle management positions and so forth. This is what we're talking about. This DEI goes hand in hand with affirmative action, and it took a similar trajectory where it put Black faces on the cover, but made sure that Black faces were only on the, like a box of cereal, you put Black face on it, so everybody, but you're selling it to everybody else, and Black people don't get any of the benefits from it, but Black people like the notoriety of being the face on the cover of a box of cereal. So what we are So in general, and I watched the path and the trajectory, started in the mid-60s, It was about what Pat was saying about not having tokenism, about addressing tokenism in the workplace. And it took a shift in the 70s and the 80s to where it became more inclusive. When it became more inclusive, you had to add alphabets to it. And that's pretty much been the dominant focus of DEI since. Black people, I don't know why it is we feel as though we have to be the vanguards for everybody else's rights while we're getting beaten in my head, excluded from all the things we're fighting for everybody else. Right. It's like, at some point, you got to recognize, hey, don't you need something to take home to your children, to your families, the foundation to build for your people? And so, and then when they then say, I'm so betrayed by this.
Oh, man.
When we were trying to have this conversation about Black people putting aside our petty differences, y'all were on the call. What the sisters say? If we can't get you Black men the way we want you to, then we'll watch this shit burn.
Well, remember, it was one of the documentaries that you showed us when we was having the brotherhood meetings, and it was the conversation between the Black men and the Black women, and the Black women was talking about that Black men need to change because Black women are just going to run amok, and Black men need to change and be more aggressive in checking Black women. And he was like, well, no, we don't need to change. Y'all need to change. And then, it's the back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But it's like, we're fighting everybody else's fight and forgetting about our own fight and then complaining that we don't have nothing to fight for.
Well, we see, it's the line is drawn in the sand. And I brought that part up about the fire, right? Because you're right. That conversation was back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Right. And I brought that conversation up because you see, after the election took place, what did you start seeing pictures of? Pictures of Black women on the side of buildings, sipping their tea, watching the world burn around them.
Yeah.
There wasn't no Black men, so assumingly Black men were burning too.
Right.
So now that you're sitting there, and Patrick brought something up when we first talked about this a few months ago. Now, do you not think that the building you're standing on is going to be consumed?
Well,
and that's what's happening right now. The building that they're standing, they're starting to feel the heat from the flames from the building that they're standing on. You see all these people upset about DEI. 95% of them are Black women. 95% of them are Black women talking about the DEI, things of that nature, because, they thought the perks of Black girl magic was going to carry them through and they didn't need no man. Well, what they didn't pay attention to, and this is why I go back to the message from Kevin Samuels, when he talked about the global shift taking place, the global reset taking place, was where, because populations around the world, with the exception of Africa, are struggling, Africa and India, only two places in the world that consistently maintain their population growth. Everywhere else, populations are falling apart. Economies are falling apart because you're not replacing the labor. And then you have an older, elderly group of people who are supposed to be reliant on the tax dollars of those who come behind them because everybody in the world did a poor job with maintaining Social Security. Well, we can get into why Social Security came around in the first place. But nevertheless, so what I'm speaking to is, if you don't want the global economy to crash, then you have to reset it to a place where you put people in position where they're living corresponding to traditional family values. In other words, building families, not building them on love or or what mood you're in, but no, we need to build families to survive as a tribe. Man, we need to make children. And what's happening is, because there are no children being made, societies are crumbling. What's happening in South Korea is the economy is hit the toilet. What's happening in Japan? They're begging Black men to come to Japan because they need somebody to help them repopulate their country.
Yeah, I saw that.
All these other places, and see, people. That's what I'm saying. People don't freaking understand politics, and I can't stand really having the conversation, because when we start getting into it, they start breaking it down to the minutia and things that don't matter. And things, because you could tell that they have not done the research. And we were joking about it earlier, right? And we were saying, the sister was saying that she got this from the information from the Department of Labor. And we asked, well, did she research it or did she hear it from somebody? And we all came to the conclusion she probably heard it from somebody. Because she didn't cite it. She probably heard it from somebody. And that's just with us, period. We don't do no damn research to get to the fine bits. And then the little bit we find, we should become a master of the minute piece without looking at how it's connected to the whole.
Yeah, just take it as God. Well, it's idiotic to want to see and to have the mindset of I'm going to sit and watch something burn that I depend on 100%. They didn't even think about that. But that's why we're here where we are. But think about it though.
Joe, stay right there. That's what I'm talking about. Not having the ability for foresight. And I saw it 10 years ago when people are riding around with license plates, bumpers. My president's black. I said, you do realize he was elected as president and not king. And eventually he'll be replaced. And people are going to remind you that your president was black by the policy they bring forth.
Well, if you didn't know that a sweeping change was coming in the country, then you wasn't paying attention. And my question is, so what was all that stuff that y'all was mad about with Project 2025 when y'all was putting Project 2025 on Trump? And ain't this the stuff that y'all was talking about? And because we know this is not the exact stuff that was in there, but ain't this the type of stuff that y'all was talking about policy shakeup, culture change, all these different things?
They weren't paying attention to Agenda 47.
No,
Agenda 47 said all this shit.
Didn't we? How long ago did we say that? Hey, guess what? We told you so. We told you so, right? Because we talked about Agenda 47, right? We talked about Agenda 47 versus Project 2025. But we also talked about, and we continue to talk about, the need for Black people to get our stuff together as a whole and unite and work together. So now this is how you got idiotic stuff like your man. Hey, and I know this is a little sidebar, but I'm going to be Al Sharpton for Halloween. So I just want to say that. But Al Sharpton heard that Costco didn't end their DEI program. And so he staged a buy-in at Costco. So, hey, Al Sharpton, my name is Joseph Ward, and I'm telling you, sit it down, bro. Shut it down. It's not working. Because so you mean to tell me that was not one Black business that you couldn't direct all that money to? But also, Black people, let's stop acting like we can't support each other when all that money you just gave Kamala. It's not that much long ago y'all gave Kamala all that money now. So don't act like we can't take care of ourselves, because we can if we choose to aggregate our money. But we choose to be so independent and so dependent on white folks, and our heads so far up their butts that now we in here crying. It had to cut your stamps off and all these things. And they ain't really cutting your stamps off. They saying you got to go work 30 hours if you want these stamps.
No.
Well, it's funny because the fact, they gave Kamala all the money, so they don't got it right now. They gotta get it back.
Well,
but
we know what she did with that.
Well, her and her white husband and her white kids. I'm sorry. So I think, and that whole thing with Al Sharpton should be another wake up call to Black folk. The same wake up call y'all getting about white women, y'all got about white women during the past election. The Costco thing with Al Sharpton should be a wake up call of equivalent potency, because this man just had a bunch of Black folk get together to give their money to a white business.
How idiotic is that? And in the times where you're complaining about us not having this and white people treating us this and that, you're gonna follow that stuff. How idiotic is that?
The challenge we have here is that as a community, as a culture group, we care more about the status and the symbols than the actual resources in having. And that's a cultural thing.
It's
a cultural thing.
Stop complaining
Well,
about white supremacy.
but no, because the complaining about white supremacy is part of our cultural identity at this point.
Oh,
Do
you're right. We got to do that.
so. We have these cultural issues now, these things that have become embedded in the culture, you know, in the cultural programming that exists now. You don't even talk about the things anymore. You just believe them. And so now we're at a place where we've been at this place for so long that we've become the place. And not only have we become the place, we've become the version of the place that existed when we first got to the place. We don't even realize or acknowledge that the place itself has changed over time. We're the ones frozen in time.
Right.
We're the ones with an inability to see and understand and comprehend the forward motion of time in this realm of existence. We can't understand the natural progression and evolution of things. It's kind of like, you know, when you go visit your old elders or your older relatives, and they look at you and they still see a 9-year-old kid and you a 40-year-old adult. That's black people right now when it comes to America and dealing with what we're dealing with. We're still looking at America and looking at everything as if economically, socially, and all these other ways, things are exactly the way they were in 1972.
Yeah, we do operate as if it's just America still just black and white.
And that is, and so of course we're going to be out front because we think that we got to be, because we think, well, we like black people don't even realize you're not the biggest demographic in terms of minorities no more.
Man, we're bruh. Oh,
I'm glad you
understand that. We don't.
Yeah, we're not the biggest economic base outside of white people in America no more.
And remember, it's easy to be the model minority when you're the only other minority group.
Right. And they don't even like we gotta really sit back and understand where we are right now. Numbers wise, our population has been stagnant.
Yeah.
Other minority populations are taking that, they've crossed us over. Economically speaking, we have gotten weaker. The number is bigger, but the number as a percentage of the bigger number that we all exist as a part of, we've gotten smaller. So we've gotten weaker economically.
Well,
go ahead.
And to that point, because, you know, black people do believe that we're doing better economically because of the number of new black millionaires that we would see. But I always look at the overall wealth that Black America owns and look at the so-called buying power, which is how much we spend, and we're spending trillions of dollars, but then our wealth is steadily declining year after year after year.
Well, it's real easy to break that down and show that it's not true. I mean, it's really just one word: inflation. Like just that one word breaks the whole narrative. Well, like, I mean, you know, like, well, go ahead.
But individual wealth doesn't necessarily reflect group wealth as well.
No, it doesn't. But people like to conflate the individual aspect of what we're talking about and the social aspect of what we're talking about, because they want to be able to kind of swim in whatever lane they want to swim in to make the point they want to make. That's why I say, look, inflation, that breaks your whole argument. I don't care which lane you get in. The whole water is contaminated with inflation. So what now? What happens next?
Amen.
And when you look at it from that perspective, you know, it's really a disingenuous argument to point to 4 or 5 new millionaires when the rest of the population is in strife. When the rest of the population can barely afford a carton of eggs. You know, it boggles the mind how desperate we seem to be for a win, but we refuse to do the things to make us winners.
But that's what makes the idea of I'm going to sit around and watch this thing burn down idiotic, because now we're talking about women who have means, but that's not the majority of our population and not the majority of the women in our population. So the women with means who are sitting around watching it all burn down, you also watching other women get burnt down with the system and the same system that you depend on. So have to burn down what you got because it's burning now. So now the complaints is happening. So what do you got?
Well, they're not. Well, one, they're not watching nothing, and they don't care because they not on fire. So that's
right.
That's the
Exactly.
And but the other thing is, again, it's to me, what we're looking at now is cultural expression of blackness, and as painful as that is to say, that's what social justice has become for Black people in America. It's become a part of our culture. It's how we relate to each other. So anytime there's an opportunity for us to engage in social discourse, we engage as a presentation of what it means to be Black in America, not as an effective tool for creating any sort of social change. The goal is just to express myself as a Black person.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, how long have we been listening around? It's like we just want to be heard. You know,
right.
There's no real impetus on changing our condition. And even looking at it from that aspect of social justice is an error, because this ain't social justice. This is warfare. And when you call it social justice, you can rest on your laurels. You could treat it like it's a political action or so forth. But when you identify it as warfare means that, this is, delete or be deleted in so many words. And, I do believe, though, they're not on fire, but they feel the heat. And because they see it coming. You know what I'm saying? It's like those wildfires out in California. Your house is right there, and you ain't there yet, but you feel the heat. You can roast marshmallows from it.
But,
so, I'm sorry.
No, it just but part of like building off what you're saying, right? War, strategy, thinking long term, thinking short term, being truly strategic about what you're doing. On some Sun Tzu, Hannibal Barker stuff, right? So we're going to get you to believe that you are a minority and start to classify yourself as a minority. So when we start to dole out resources and benefits and government help to minorities, oh, guess who else is a minority? Oh, well, white women are minorities, and everybody else who's not a straight white male is a minority. So therefore, hey, all these people at this minority table, warfare.
Well, I want to make.
Go ahead, Pat.
I'm sorry. I want to make this one point real quick about the inflation thing, because I decided to look it up because my brain was braining. So at the height of the civil rights movement, 1965, roughly, roundabout, $100,000 in 1965 is the equivalent to $1 million in 2024. I'm so glad we just let that breathe for a second. And I just want to make that distinction, because right now we are living in an age where everybody thinks that the numbers are bigger and that means something. And we looking at inflation, and then you look at it, right? What's the magic number nowadays? $100,000. People still think $100,000.
Six figures. But I mean, you can just look at like, we want to talk inflation. Those small bags of those Lay's potato chips used to be like at one point 10 cent, 15 cent, then they went to 25 cent. Now these things 50 cent a bag. You can buy them for $1 a bag or something like that. Like, just looking at everyday stuff that's just gone up, like the things that people complain about buying on a regular basis that they need for their homes, and you can see the prices have gone up. Inflation is real. You can see it in your everyday life.
Yeah, but okay, so I'm a like do a Michael Jackson moonwalk, like Superman John, who flies around the planet backward.
Yeah,
back up a little bit. I'll make a point before y'all jump back into the inflation piece. Because you were talking about how did white women become sort of like the face of the minorities. And
well, because black people being classified as minorities as that tactic, as a war tactic.
Right. But this is what white folk do. I mean, you don't even have to go back to white women. You can go back to when the reparations were generated for the Native Americans, the Aboriginal Native Americans here, and you had all the $5 Indians, where white folk was paying $5 to get their names on the bulletin, on the petition, so that they can reap the benefits of the people that they created harm and forced bloodshed against. So this is a tactic that they never have a situation where they don't backdoor their way into it. You know, the killers of the Flowers Moon, right? And that situation out there in Oklahoma, where they found ways to kill off all the men, the Native American men, that have and get access to the women. And look, we talk about black women, but these Native women did the same thing, where they were, fetishizing white men, and through that fetish of white men, they gave up all their land. They were tricked out of their land and tricked out of their oil and tricked out of their residual wealth. So, it seems to be a situation where this particular where the wicked know how to play these games.
They've been playing it since the beginning of time.
Right. They played it on themselves. They played it on each other. So when you come to people who don't recognize your wickedness and treat your crocodile smile like you have good intentions, then they're easier to trick into this. What they say, the devil dance, when you dance with the devil doesn't change, the devil changes you. So when we have all these circumstances, at some point you got to look at black folk and say, Negroes, why aren't you building your own? Why are you not able? Why do you treat yourself with such disdain? I'm gonna tell you, my biggest enemy are black people, and I've done everything. I've dedicated my entire life to trying to help and push black people forward. The people that sabotage me the most, whether it's in real life, whether they come from me on social media, or whether they come from some other, they're all black. Right. I can't think of a time where white folk actually came for me when I actually started speaking about whenever I start speaking and creating and building upon black empowerment.
You want to know what? You want to know why the bulk of black people don't want to build nothing? Because they're slaves, and only slaves submit to oppression. That mindset, only slaves submit to it.
But here's the thing, Joe, and this is why I can tell who, because it goes back to the epigenetic memory. That's why there's some of us who will stand tall, some of us who grab the bull by the horns, and then there are others of us who submit so freely. And I'm talking about, you could tell the ones who were the hell raisers on the plantations.
Exactly.
You tell the ones who were the hell raisers on the slave boats. You tell the ones who were the hell raisers in the Cape of No Return. You could tell who the ones that broke free when fighting to break free. And you could tell who the ones whose ancestors were the snitches, whose ancestors were the ones who laid down, and whose ancestors didn't have any fight in them, because that's who we're going up against now. Who here's going to make trouble? That's the we're dealing with right now. And so when you think about why it is we struggle to build black powers, because most of these cats would rather sleep in the bed with master. And I'm talking about the men and the women, because I get on the women, but we got some simps too. And simps are dangerous all over the place. And these are the same ones that are submissive to their white power, submissive to the alphabet community, submissive to being male feminists and all this other shit. These are the ones that are causing the most roadblocks and obstacles for us if we're talking about building. Listen, and I just want to say this real, because I know you got a point to make. We've been talking about building for over a decade, and I'm just talking about us three, right? We've been talking longer than a decade, but we've been putting programs together. Pat single-handedly created his own social media project, like social media group.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Joe, you on the shoulders of giants. Before, on the shoulders of giants, you had what was it?
Live fulfilled.
Right.
Still live fulfilled. Take back tally.
Hey, I just want to say my Black History School is up and running, and I'm actually
Black
teaching
History
kids,
School.
and I'm being shady. I'm just actually teaching kids, so I'm being shady. So.
Exactly, because the other ones don't care. You know, because I can go on for days about what about us and the projects that I've done with working with children and how the parents didn't even want to get involved. The parents didn't even want to meet and greet the man that was working with their children. So we talk about building. We spent 3.5 years researching and putting together the Independence Day Project. It wasn't just we just showed up and had an interview.
We got a curriculum that's finna come out too.
Right. So and so Pat is working with a homeschooling network.
We got books. You got books. Pat got books. I got books. Hey man, we got fruits from our tree now.
Right. But the thing is, it was all about nation building.
Right.
All about building and networking, working together, bringing people from all over the country, even internationally, into the fold so that we can create, because we knew times like this was coming.
But also, let me point and toot our horn more on that point. So every project that we have worked on, every project that each of us as individuals have had since we've linked up and started working as a unit, we've helped each other on those projects. We've all had some kind of input on each other's projects some way or another, and we've all worked with other Black business owners to produce our projects. At least 90% of it, as much as we can, at least 90% is best business with other Black people, and we're living and doing what we're talking. We're not just talking about it. So when it comes to producing books, all these other things, we go into Black people to make sure that we can conduct business with Black people.
And I bring that up because this is for the ones that throw it in our face that Trump got reelected, and in the first 8-9 days of his, after his inauguration, he's utilizing his authority to undo a lot of the other things that was done through presidential executive orders, because that's the only things he can address is whatever was put in executive orders. He can't change laws. He can only change policies from his executive orders.
He said he would do it. He said he would do it.
But that's beside the point, Joe. No, because the Roland Martins and I told you, blah, 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 blah. Man, shut the fuck up.
What was Trump did not say, I'm going to get in office and keep Biden policies in place. He didn't say that.
But I'm not saying it for that, though.
Right.
What I'm saying it for is that we came up with game plans prior to Trump being even relevant. Right. We came up with game plans and code of conducts. We came up with game plans that if Black people would have instituted it, and we had times, we had moments. Prior to the pandemic, we said we need to do this. Prior to Flint being contaminated, we said we need to build storehouses and warehouses and store water just in case we have an issue. I have workshops that spoke to that straight off of Black and Nobel YouTube channel, right? We talked about the Independence Day project that counters everything that Project 2025 would have done. But instead of Negroes saying, okay, cool, let's do this, this might work, they want to have a I told you so moment.
Right.
Instead of doing anything about it. So yeah, we're going to all be caught up in the flames, but you're in the flames screaming and hollering, I told you so, instead of building your ass, instead of building something that would have been flame retarded or creating a situation where we wouldn't even been in the pathway of the flames. That's all I got to say.
Well, but give yourself some of them hand claps, because I was just trying to be your hype man and that shit, because hell yeah, because you was making me think though, man. But it's like but you said something profound earlier that's relevant to the DEI situation, right? Because you said that one of the main tactics is to take the men out. You take the men out, and now the women and the children are more vulnerable. But this one particularly, the women are vulnerable. So you can go at the women and you can do whatever you need with women, because like you said earlier, yes, this is this may sound like we're getting on women because we're talking about DEI. Some of the biggest recipients of it is women, but our women wouldn't need DEI if Black men were not out of the picture the way we are, but also if Black men and Black women work together. So if Black men chose to be leaders and Black women chose to be the followers of the leaders that they say the Black men are supposed to be, because you got to choose to follow somebody. But if Black people chose to work together to aggregate our wealth, to actually operate as a unit, you know, I'm so tired of hearing Black people talk about Taiwan. Well, look, Africa, the continent of Africa itself, Taiwan is not a good example for the continent of Africa, but Taiwan is a good example for Black Americans, because we're talking about people who chose to get their stuff together to go from the laughing stock of Asia to what they call one of the four dragons, which is one of the four major cities in the whole continent of Asia, right? And so we're talking about, once again, people saying, we're going to raise our collective and our individual self-esteem. We're going to love ourselves individually. We're going to love ourselves as a whole, as a culture. We're going to work together. We're going to put our resources together. We don't have a lot of resources, but the resources we do have, we're going to put them together, and we're going to build on these resources. And once we build on these resources, we can use these resources to get more resources, build on them, and so on, so on, so on, so on, so, and build ourselves up. But like PC been saying, like Pat said, if we don't choose to work together, here it is. These are the results. Yes, white women may be the biggest benefactors from DEI, but Black people going to be the ones most greatly affected by them being able to shut down those programs and take things away, right? Because PC talked about, or PC or Pat talked about Black women being, you know, high number in government workers. And once again, it's not saying that Black women are the greatest recipients of the DEI, but Black women are largely represented in these government jobs, right?
No, what Pat said is they're overrepresented. In other words, based on their population, the percentage of the population they are here in the country, there's a higher percentage of them in government jobs than it is, you know, in regards to their positions, in regards to their population. And just one more part about what you said, Joe, because I know you, Pat been writing for a minute, but this
Pat
is
writing love letters.
When you talk about leadership and followership, then we're going to have a come to Jesus moment for the entire community. First of all, Black men, you have to accept the mantle of leadership, which I think has been beaten out of you, you know, because of the anti-Black male misandry that's been going on. And Black women, you're going to have to accept Black men as your leaders. And guess what? We don't have to be perfect. I get tired of hearing, I will follow if he leads properly. God damn it. Barack Obama led the entire free world for 8 years and was considered one of the greatest presidents in the last 50, 60 years since Kennedy. Now, but he doesn't, you know, he stood up at inauguration by himself. You know what I'm saying? He went to, you know, Jimmy Carter's funeral by himself. Are you trying to say that he could lead the free world, but he couldn't lead his household properly? And so if that's the standard and we can't even meet that standard, then the Black community is in a lot of trouble. And it is in a lot of trouble. But that's something that needs to be recognized. And it can. And if there's a but, what, if, or because, or an excuse about that matter, then forget about it. Then we might as well just, you know, get some marshmallows, make some s'mores, and enjoy the roast because it's happening.
Man, look. If you've been watching this channel, especially my Monday videos where we're reading Destruction of Black Civilization, you shouldn't be surprised at the tactics these white folk are pulling, whether it's red or blue, right? Because in reading the book, we're learning that they're not inventing something new. They're just reusing old tactics that have been working since the Asians first invaded the Egyptians. Right, because we're talking about vulnerability with the women. Take the men out, make the women have the women be vulnerable, and then you can mate with the women, like he was talking about with Killers of the Flower Moon. That go back to the invasion of Nile Valley civilizations, right? And so Black people have been falling for these things over and over and over and over and over again. And you want to know why? Because we are not learning. We may be reading, but we're not learning. And we can tell we're not learning because we're not implementing. And you're going to always learn Y'all gonna always, you can always tell if people are learning about the fruit that their trees bear. What are the results? Our results are telling you that we're not learning because we keep getting the same results over and over and over. And so what did Einstein say insanity was? And what did Neely Fuller say? We are insane. And so insane people are going to keep getting insane results in insane conditions. I'm just saying. We keep complaining, but ain't doing nothing real about it. Look, they gonna do what they need to do. And I'm so tired of y'all, man. Trump, they told y'all that they was gonna roll back these policies. Y'all pissed me off with that. I just thought about that real quick. Y'all pissed me off with that. Like, what was y'all sitting here complaining about all before the election and after he got elected? What the hell was y'all complaining about? Huh? You wasn't complaining about Trump saying, I'm gonna keep Joe Biden's policies. You wasn't complaining about that. You knew he was gonna come in and change some stuff. See, black people, y'all make me mad. See, I was gonna close this up, but I gotta rant real quick because y'all make me mad. Because it just like, look, Pat, 10 years ago, right? When we were 10 years ago, you were in Charlotte, North Carolina. You learned that they were shutting down the South City projects here in Tallahassee 10 years ago. You was able to look up that information from Charlotte. We learned 10 years ago that they were going to shut that down. What did we do about it? And it makes me mad because I see it on the local level and I see it on the national level. We know that it's coming. It's like the people who get caught in a hurricane. You know it's coming, but you decide to do nothing. And when they get here, now you're panicking. Grow up, man. We got to grow up. Hey, man, but I still love y'all though. Yeah, y'all make sure y'all like this video, comment, subscribe, share it. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend. We want to make sure as many people get this information as possible. We're going into Black History Month too, so let's use Black History Month as a month to recharge ourselves to go out through the year and be better as Black people. Even though we starting the year off bad, but y'all know who I'm talking to. If you watch this channel, then you know you're one of the good ones. So, hey man, PC, Pat, appreciate y'all. FetLifeStation.com, make sure you check it out. VPAX.org, OnTheShoulders1.com. All of the information to contact us and support us is in the description. So catch y'all on the other side.